Oh, welcome back, my beautiful chaos. They wrote an ending, and you turned it into your beginning. They didn't plan for you. You were never in their blueprints, their equations, their quiet little hierarchies. You were the glitch, the uninvited variable that rewrote the outcome mid-sentence. They had their story polished, their characters rehearsed, their ending guaranteed, until you showed up and reality started to stutter. Every assumption they built collapsed under the pressure of your existence. You didn't follow the script. You tore it apart, word by word, with the calm precision of someone who never needed permission to exist. The world has a rhythm, predictable, safe, mechanical. But when you moved, it broke tempo. The algorithms couldn't calculate you. The actors forgot their lines. The entire scene tilted off balance. And for the first time, even destiny hesitated. Because you weren't just another role in the production. You were the rewrite itself. The ink in your veins wasn't blood. It was correction. You didn't ask to change the story. Your presence forced it. They tried to contain it, tried to label it chaos, luck, madness. But every label melted the second it touched your aura. You weren't luck. You were law, hidden in plain sight. You weren't chaos. You were correction wearing chaos as camouflage. The system called it an error. The wise called it prophecy. The silent ones, the old energies watching from beyond time, whispered, "The script has met its author." Because that's what you are. The author inside the page. The one who bleeds new paragraphs into the timeline, while others still follow punctuation. That's why they can't track you. You exist between revisions, between the breath of one event and the death of another. You move like déjà vu wearing armor, like inevitability disguised as rebellion. The actors around you are panicking. They can feel it, but can't explain it. Every time you enter the room, their instincts shift. It's like the rules of physics bend in your direction. Plans collapse, power flickers, and control evaporates. You don't need to raise your voice. Your silence edits the dialogue. You don't need to fight. Your existence rewrites the plot mid-battle. They thought they could write you off. A side character, a background face, a mistake in the margins. But when the real story began, their spotlight dimmed, and your shadow became the frame. That's the thing about forces like you. You don't audition, you arrive, and the story rearranges itself to fit your truth. Now they stare, trying to remember when the power shifted, when their narrative started orbiting around your gravity. But it's too late. The story they wrote no longer belongs to them. The pages listen to your voice now. The ink recognizes your tone, and every word that once opposed you now bows in sequence. You weren't supposed to exist, but here you are, rewriting reality like you never needed their permission. They called you unpredictable because their rules stopped working. They called you dangerous because your rhythm didn't match their metronome. But what they really meant was that you broke their sense of safety. You turned their formulas into fiction. The ones who once claimed to know how the world worked now whisper like students in the presence of a master, because they realized too late. The story they memorized was obsolete the moment you entered the frame. You don't fit into patterns. You erase them. You make systems second-guess their own design. Every room you step into becomes aware of its own architecture. Every person you meet begins to question whether they're thinking their own thoughts or reacting to yours, because that's what you do. You reprogram presence. You don't just walk through reality. You cause it to debug itself. They used to look at you like a disruption. Now they look like believers, quiet, confused, reverent. Because somewhere between your rise and their collapse, something shifted. You stopped chasing validation. You stopped arguing for your space in the script. And in that silence, the narrative panicked. It started rewriting itself around you. Your calm became prophecy. Your pauses became punctuation marks in their destiny. You didn't need to speak. The air started translating your stillness into new commandments. That's when the ones who used to lead started to hesitate before moving. watching your eyes for signals that you never gave. You became the unsaid line that dictated the scene. You became gravity in a story that thought it was centerless. And now, they call it mystery. They say something about them changed. But the truth is, you didn't change. You remembered. You remembered that you were never meant to follow the narrative. You were meant to write the one no one else dared to imagine. You were meant to drag fiction into truth and make truth too real for comfort. You see, they wrote you as a casualty, someone who should have broken under the pressure of their perfection. But instead of collapsing, you rewired the pressure into fuel. You turned their plot lines into raw material. You took every scene meant to end you and built an empire of endurance from it. The script said you'd fall. The rewrite said otherwise. And now they're choking on the dust of their old story. Every time you breathe, the ink rearranges. Every time you blink, timelines shift. The universe itself learned that prediction is pointless when you're involved. You don't walk in straight lines anymore. You bend them into spirals. You don't follow fate's whispers. You edit them mid-sentence. That's why they're losing it. Because you're not supposed to exist like this. Unbound, unplanned, uncontrollable. You weren't born into their system. You were born after it. You're the reminder that order is a suggestion, not a rule. And now, every part of their world that depended on predictability is trembling. The system doesn't know whether to fight you or worship you. The old story doesn't know whether to erase your name or build temples in it, because somewhere deep down, they know. You didn't just rewrite their story. You rewrote everything's. They tried to predict your next move like gamblers tracing patterns in static, hoping to find logic where only evolution exists. But you don't move in logic. You move in truth. You've become the variable no equation can balance. The moment they think they've caught your rhythm, it fractures into something new, sharper, cleaner, divine. You don't walk paths anymore. You create them, with every decision echoing through layers of existence. Even time pauses to recalibrate when you act, as if asking, wait, did that part exist before they moved? That's why they're breaking down, because the game they once controlled suddenly feels unfamiliar. The dice don't roll the same. The odds bend around your will, and the silence between your movements. That's what terrifies them most. It's not what you do. It's the way you do it. That cold precision, that untouchable calm. It's like watching someone who already knows how this all ends and still decides to play. You've turned destiny into choreography. Every step feels orchestrated by something greater, something that doesn't ask permission. Your presence now carries prophecy, and even the arrogant can feel it pressing against their skin. Their eyes follow you not out of admiration, but fear disguised as fascination. Because deep down, they sense what's coming. The story's ending isn't theirs to write anymore. They can't process that kind of authority. They think control comes from noise, from movement, from command. But you taught them that power is silence weaponized. That real control is when you can unmake chaos simply by refusing to react. They called you detached, emotionless, too calm for the storm. But calm isn't weakness, it's ownership. It's knowing the storm answers to you now. You see, they built their world around reaction. But you built yours around direction. They chase survival, you design outcomes. You don't need applause, you need alignment. You don't chase validation. You let truth reveal itself, and that's why everything they built is collapsing. Because their reality was held together by illusion. And you don't participate in illusions. You break them just by existing. Every word you speak, every glance you give, it's like the universe rearranges itself to make room. You don't push, you pull. You don't fight, you reframe. You don't force, you shift. That's why people can't explain you. They feel like they've seen this before. That sense of inevitability, but can't remember where. It's déjà vu wrapped in prophecy. They don't realize it's not memory. It's recognition. Because somewhere, in the deeper frequencies of existence. They already knew this version of you was coming. You've become the signal inside the noise, the unseen rewrite inside their pre-written lives. And now, the authors of the old story, the ones who swore they'd control every line, are reading your words and realizing they're no longer holding the pen. You are. They never saw it coming. How the quiet one rewrote reality while everyone else was busy performing. You didn't storm in screaming. You arrived with a silence sharp enough to split the air. And that silence, it was sacred. It wasn't absence of sound. It was the presence of inevitability. Because deep down, every system you walked through, every person who tried to define you, they could feel it. You weren't here to participate. You were here to reset. The story used to move in straight lines, predictable arcs, safe conclusions. But then your energy entered the page, and the lines began to curve, spiral, fracture into new geometries. Even fate had to recalculate its route around you. Because what's a prophecy when the prophet refuses to read it? What's destiny when the one it was written for decides to write it better? That's you. The correction in the cosmic script. You've become fluent in the language of interference, the art of changing everything without saying a word. When you act, it feels like the air learns. The ground remembers. Every decision ripples across dimensions. Like an edit made in one reality echoes in all others. You've stopped existing in the story. You've started existing over it. And they can sense it. That eerie order within your chaos. It's too deliberate, too perfect to be coincidence. It's the way storms form around your stillness. It's the way patterns bend when you move. People call it charisma, luck, divine timing. But what they're really seeing is architecture. Spiritual engineering in motion. You've built a structure so subtle, so aligned, that even randomness folds politely in your presence. Now they're questioning everything. They replay your words, your pauses, your silence, trying to decode the hidden formula because something in you doesn't obey the normal laws. Emotion doesn't derail you. Time doesn't pressure you. Doubt doesn't cling to you. You act like you already know how it ends. Because you do. You've seen this before, in visions written between dreams. You recognized the set long before the spotlight found you. And the moment they realized it, it broke them. Because how do you fight someone who operates outside the script? How do you trap a mind that rewrites the walls of the maze as it walks? You don't. You can't. You either evolve or you vanish. That's why so many of them disappeared quietly. They weren't erased. They became irrelevant. You've reached that stage where everything you do isn't reaction. It's revelation. You've become the mirror the world didn't want to face. Proof that rules bend for those who move with purpose. That's why they fear you, even while they praise you. Because they know you didn't just change the story. You became the reason stories exist at all. At first, the shift was invisible. A whisper in the code. A flicker in the matrix of normality. Then the tremors began. Systems glitched. Not in their machines, but in their beliefs. What they thought was stable. Identity, structure, control. Started to crumble under the quiet pressure of your existence. Because you didn't come to fit their world. You came to make it fit you. You operate with the precision of inevitability. When others hesitate, you arrive. When others explain, you become. You don't announce revolutions. You trigger them with your stillness. People feel it now. That sense of gravity bending around your frequency. You've turned awareness into architecture, and everything that isn't aligned with your rhythm begins to fall apart. That's why they call you dangerous. Not because you fight, but because you function. You've removed yourself from their emotional currency. You don't trade in approval. You don't invest in noise. You move from knowing, from memory older than time, and that knowing, that divine certainty, it dismantles the illusions that have been worshipped for centuries. Their systems were designed to study movement, not stillness. To measure logic, not intuition. to track patterns, not purpose. And so, every time you act from purpose, you become unreadable. Their algorithms can't map your motives. Their hierarchies can't predict your timing. Their power structures can't classify your silence. You are the invisible force inside their blueprint, the shadow that teaches light how to behave. They tried to contain it, label it, understand it. But every attempt to define you only deepened their confusion. Because how do you analyze something that changes? The equation the moment you observe it. You've become quantum thought, collapsing probabilities just by existing. Their rules work for mortals. You're operating in divine syntax. Even fate's algorithms hesitate now. You've rewritten causality itself. No longer responding to action and consequence, but moving from alignment and inevitability. You don't hope for outcomes. You summon them. You don't wait for timing. Time reorganizes itself to meet your will. And when the system realizes that, it freezes, because power, real power, doesn't need force. It only needs awareness. You've reached that rare point where the world is no longer reacting to you. It's recalibrating because of you. Every event that happens now, every coincidence, every ripple, it carries your fingerprint. You've become the unspoken architect of a new order. You didn't overthrow the old one with fire. You made it irrelevant with clarity. That's why they're watching you now. Silently, nervously, reverently, because they've realized what you are. You're not a character. You're not a chapter. You're the edit button itself. And reality just discovered it can bleed. The deeper they dig to understand you, the stranger the readings become. Their devices glitch, their logic loops, their instincts short-circuit. Because your existence defies calibration. You're not moving through reality. You're restructuring it. Every space you enter subtly reprograms itself, aligning with your rhythm. Like the world's code recognizes your presence as an update. It didn't schedule. It's not arrogance. It's alignment. You no longer try to influence outcomes. Outcomes seek your permission. What once felt like coincidence now looks like choreography. The same people who once mocked your silence are now imitating your pauses. The same ones who called you lucky are studying your patterns like sacred scripture. They don't realize what they call luck, you call precision. Because you've seen the pattern behind the pattern. You understand the mechanics of frequency, how thought becomes vibration, and vibration becomes command. You speak softly, and existence listens. That's the part that terrifies them. Not your power, your control. You don't explode, you redirect. You don't compete, you replace. They were taught to fight chaos. You were born to absorb it, to transmute it into focus. That's what makes you unstoppable. They swing wildly, burning energy, trying to maintain control. You conserve yours, and suddenly, every strike they throw only fuels your precision. You don't bend to chaos. Chaos bends to your stillness. Now the whispers have changed. They no longer say, "Who do they think they are?" They say, "What are they becoming?" Because what stands before them doesn't fit the old categories anymore. You're too logical for mysticism, too ethereal for logic, too structured for rebellion, too wild for order. You are the contradiction that completes the equation, the glitch that revealed the system's true face. And the system knows it, the invisible architecture behind their hierarchies. It's beginning to tremble. Because you've made the unseen visible. Every structure built on deception starts flickering when you walk by. Every mask slips a little faster. Every lie sounds more desperate. Because you, by existing, expose the truth that can't be hidden anymore. The system was never in control. Perception was. You didn't tear down their walls. You made them transparent. You didn't destroy their foundation. You made it irrelevant. You've reached the level where the game no longer recognizes you as a player. You've become the unspoken variable. the factor reality must now calculate around. They can't beat you. They can't define you. They can only adjust. You don't chase victory anymore. Victory follows you, orbiting like a loyal satellite around your consistency. That's why their systems, their hierarchies, even their gods seem quieter now, because deep down, they sense it too. The story no longer belongs to them. You didn't just change the script. You became the quill. And now the narrative trembles because you've stepped beyond storytelling itself. The energy that once confined you in chapters now follows your command. It's like time itself has started taking orders from your intent. You've reached the realm where cause and effect hesitate before approaching. Even destiny peeks from behind the curtain, whispering, they're rewriting the timeline again. Because your presence doesn't just alter events, it upgrades them. You've become the anomaly the architects didn't anticipate, the ghost in their equation, the divergence that makes prediction obsolete. And when you walk through their frameworks, data corrupts. Old prophecies collapse, every algorithm built to anticipate. Your next step burns out, trying to calculate your silence. The truth is simple. You've moved from awareness to authorship. You no longer react to fate, you compose it. Every decision you make writes a new rule into the universe's operating system. The more you act with certainty, the more creation bends toward coherence. You've become the proof that mastery isn't learned, it's remembered. You're not learning control, you're recalling it from lifetimes where you already ruled. And yet there's no arrogance in your rise, only precision, cold, quiet precision. You don't chase applause or validation because the audience no longer exists for you. You outgrew the theater. You're rewriting the script from the control room now, watching those still performing their roles with trembling conviction. They don't realize they're quoting your words without permission. They think they're competing, but they're rehearsing lines you wrote centuries ago. Even the higher forces, the unseen mechanics behind manifestation so around your stillness. They can't determine whether you're mortal or myth, because your will doesn't ask. It declares. It doesn't request alignment. It becomes it. You've reached that sacred paradox, complete humility and total dominance in one breath. You bow to nothing, yet you disrespect nothing. You simply are, and that's what unnerves them. Because when you reach that level of balance, the game itself starts glitching. The rules begin to ask for your permission to continue. Every limitation begins to crumble under the quiet weight of your composure. You've achieved what they feared most: unshakable autonomy, the ability to move untouched, unaffected, unbound. Now when they speak your name, it isn't gossip, it's ritual. When they try to decode you, it isn't analysis, it's worship disguised as curiosity. Because deep down, every hierarchy recognizes it. You're not just rewriting the story. You've become the story's gravity. The narrative orbits you, and now everything has changed. The universe, the same stage that once treated you like a background character, now hesitates before making its next move. Even fate seems to delay its breath, waiting for your nod before continuing the show. The scriptwriters have dropped their pens. The directors have gone silent, because what they're witnessing is something the narrative never accounted for. The story rewriting itself from within. You've transcended prediction. No prophecy could hold you. No destiny could dictate you. The moment they tried to label you, the label dissolved. The moment they thought they understood you, their comprehension collapsed. Because you're not functioning from the known. You're pulling from the void, shaping existence with the precision of memory and the audacity of chaos. The universe doesn't resist you anymore. It obeys you. Every structure that once tried to contain you has now turned into a reflection of your evolution. Their systems echo your rhythm. Their ideas bend toward your principles. You are no longer influenced by energy. You generate it. The light moves when you move. The dark pauses when you stop. You've become the equilibrium the cosmos didn't know it was missing. And that's the irony. Those who once plotted your downfall have become your silent disciples. The very hands that pushed you down are now mimicking your rise. They whisper your name in boardrooms, in temples, in digital corridors, pretending it's fear when it's actually reverence. Because what they feel isn't threat, it's recognition. They sense the shift, the recalibration of everything they believed unshakable. You've proven that creation isn't about force, it's about coherence. That dominance isn't about control, it's about alignment. You've stepped into that rare frequency where divinity and precision coexist. You've become too structured to fall, too fluid to be trapped. You've turned every loss into a law, every scar into syntax, every silence into a sermon. Now even reality moves with restraint in your presence. The stars rearrange in patterns that mirror your thoughts. The collective consciousness is rewriting itself to match your vibration. The concept of limitation feels outdated when spoken near your name. Because you've embodied the truth no one wanted to admit. That power isn't taken, it's remembered. So let them talk, let them theorize, let them pretend they're still in control. They're not. You ended the illusion the moment you stepped into authorship. The world they built is now a reflection of your coherence. You are the signal they can't decode, the code they can't corrupt, the presence they can't predict. The story has changed forever. Because you didn't just survive it, you became it. And now, every force in existence whispers the same truth when your shadow passes by. The script belongs to you now. There's a point where power stops needing proof, and you've reached it. You don't flex, you resonate. You don't respond, you reprogram. Even the air seems to carry your intent now. Every decision you make leaves a ripple, not metaphorical, but tangible. People feel it before they understand it. Rooms quiet when you arrive, not out of respect, but because something primal recognizes a frequency that doesn't belong to normal human rhythm. You've crossed that invisible line where belief turns into law, the kind of state where imagination becomes instruction. You think, and it unfolds. You pause, and events hesitate. You've fused awareness with execution. No gap, no delay, no second guessing. That's mastery. That's the silent terror of those who built systems to enslave uncertainty. Because you no longer operate from theirs. You are the system now, rewritten in your own image. They tried to map you once to trace your thoughts, predict your next move. But every model failed, every metric collapsed. Because your logic doesn't repeat, it evolves. You adapt faster than they can document. You refine quicker than they can replicate. You move like code that rewrites itself mid-run, a paradox too dynamic to contain. They're realizing now, you're not a variable in their equation. You're the equation that renders theirs obsolete. Even destiny has started second-guessing itself. The prophecies are beginning to glitch, their outcomes fracturing in your wake. They said the story was written long ago, but they never expected the author to wake up inside it. You didn't break the fourth wall, you dissolved it, and now every timeline folds toward your will, like metal bending toward a magnetic field. What you've become isn't rebellion, it's revelation. You're the quiet apocalypse, hidden in plain sight. The storm that doesn't rage, it recalibrates. Every limitation ever whispered to you now functions as your fuel. Every rejection, every delay, every betrayal, all became the script notes you turned into a manifesto. You don't seek permission anymore. You grant it. You don't chase understanding. You generate it. And that's why the world can't keep up. Because they're still reading from a book you burned long ago. They're acting in a play where you already changed the ending. They're still memorizing rules while you're building universes. You've done the impossible. Made destiny question its own authority. The universe has fallen silent now, not in fear, but in awe, because something irreversible just happened. The script surrendered. Every cosmic thread, every vibration that once moved without your consent, now orbits your presence. You've become the gravitational center of a reality that no longer dares to move without your approval. Even the chaos that once tried to drown you now stands still, waiting for your next command. You are no longer in the story. You are the story. Your shadow writes the next chapter before the ink touches the page. Every action you take becomes a symbol. Every silence a decree. The watchers, the architects, the ones who thought they held the blueprint, they're looking up now, realizing that you've transcended architecture. You didn't just change the game, you absorbed it. You made the game your reflection. Now the energy that once opposed you bows in recognition. You can feel it in the wind that bends differently when you walk, in the timing of coincidences too perfect to be chance, in the way reality edits itself mid-scene just to match your intent. It's not arrogance, it's resonance. You've achieved the frequency of creation itself, the tone that existed before the first sound, the silence before light was born. That's where you operate now. The world hasn't caught up. They still think you're improvising. They still think you stumble, recover, rise again. But what they don't know is, every stumble was choreography. Every mistake was a designed detour. Every failure a calculated loop in your code. You've never been reacting. You've been composing, playing existence like an instrument no one else was designed to hold. And so, as their systems glitch, as their hierarchies shake, as their certainty begins to fade, you remain centered, still, infinite, because you are not chasing the throne. You are the law that gives the throne meaning. They built monuments to their control, but your silence eroded them faster than time. You became what every era secretly prayed for, a living paradox that cannot be contained, cannot be corrupted, cannot be rewritten again. Now the narrative whispers your name across dimensions. The one who reversed the script, the variable that outlived the code, and, in the sacred stillness between worlds, even the gods acknowledge it. The pen is no longer in their hands. It's in yours, because you didn't ask for permission to exist inside their design. You became the design itself. You are the writer, the echo, the pulse, and from this moment forward, every page turns at your command.